Hi, my name is DUFF, ARCHIE. I'm the co-founder and the COO of OffWeGo. OffWeGo is a student-centric, mobile-first solution to help aid the duty of care of universities sending students off campus. A few weeks ago, I was scrolling through my Facebook and I found this quote by one of my friends. She says her mantra is travel now, worry later. This is the mindset of a 20-year-old student who's about to study abroad for the first time. In our market research, we found that the #1 travel anxiety for students is first financial, then social, and then their safety. This is in stark contrast to their parents and universities who obviously care about their safety first and foremost. This creates a huge information gap that exists because the students are not engaged with the current solutions. These solutions, whether it's a mobile check-in app or emergency contact card, these are by our competitors that are brought over from the corporate market to the education space, and they simply aren't working. So much so, in fact, that over 70% of students do not report their independent travel itineraries to their universities, which is a huge duty of care risk because the universities aren't able to properly advise and inform their students of the risk in those locations. So what is OffWeGo doing to help solve this problem? Well, on the safety side of things, we partner with the same travel assistance firms the universities would partner with directly. So that to help offer the same umbrella coverage. So that's pre-departure briefings, in-destination alerts, mobile check-in, evacuation assistance, and 24/7 assistance. However, that's proven not to be enough. Again, 70% don't care about their safety. So we're gamifying the system. The more these students are engaged by helping them solve their first two travel anxieties, again, that's social and financial anxieties, we can then turn the attention to the safety. So what does this really look like? Well, if I'm a student studying in London for a semester, I'm on average going to take 7 or 8 different trips around Europe. I can log on to OffWeGo and book a trip to, let's say, Rome for the weekend. I'll then be able to see the 10, 12, 20 other students that are going to Rome that same weekend and book tours and activities through our OTA partners. We also get ancillary revenue from those partners. However, the catch is these students need and must report their itineraries and geolocation to us, and then we send them to the university in order to participate in this gamification system. For the universities, this is all a means to an end to get as much data as they can on their students. So they're able to see who's abroad at any one place, who has or has not checked in, and be able to reach out to them within a moment's notice and see who's affected by what travel advisors. We really see ourselves fitting into the larger global student travel market set to reach $320 billion by the end of 2020. However, we're starting in the smaller niche of US education abroad because it is a space that my co-founder John and I really know well and have a lot of experience in and see immediate applications for. However, we see ourselves growing out of this market into the larger university-sponsored travel space, so think teams, activities, groups, etc., as well as the corporate leisure market. In terms of the team, we are a young team. We have traveled over 100,000 miles between the two of us, as well as studied abroad 3 times, so we really know how these students are interacting with their peers, their parents, their technology, and their universities, as well as really knowing how these, having experience in the market ourselves and knowing from both the suppliers and demand perspective. We're also working with a great team of advisors, both in the travel tech and ed tech spaces, to help us branch the two markets together. In terms of our business model, we are a B2B business, so we sell directly to the universities, who then push the product to the students in the mandatory pre-departure orientation process before they leave campus. We're working on a 2-tiered model system that offers the most flexibility for both us and the institution in terms of the risk tolerance of the institution, the size of the institution, and the volume of students going abroad. We're right now in our letters of intent stage, gathering letters of intent from 3 different universities that would translate into over $150,000 of potential revenue. And in terms of our customer acquisition, in order to gain these university partnerships, we're working with and are members of the same key trade organizations that they are, so NASPA, ERMIA, IIE, etc. This one gives us more clout and legitimacy in the eyes of the university, as well as access to key data that helps in the sell of these universities because they're so academically and research driven. And finally, we're also doing a social media targeted campaign targeted towards the parents. So just as if you would call your congressman, put pressure on a bill, we're doing the same thing on the university side. So with that, I hope students can have fun and be safe, which are the 2 things that parents say to their students when traveling abroad. Thank you.
Dragons? They're stunned.
Can you just talk a little bit about the sales cycle to universities, just knowing that they operate on such specific calendars?
Right, great question. So It is kind of a double-edged sword. We have maybe kind of a double sales cycle. So board of trustees will usually meet twice a year to make these key decisions. So once in the fall and once in the spring. So that's going to be kind of operating around that. But yes, you're correct. It's kind of a sticky sales cycle.
Can you just elaborate a bit on what exactly you're tracking and how the student checks in?
Yes, so we're taking some of the solutions that exist already, so by our partners, these travel assistance firms, and enhancing it with a student engagement piece. This has been in our market research of universities, but the number one thing they've complained about is like, sure, they exist, but just because they exist doesn't mean their students are using it. And so we're taking these mobile check-ins that may exist already, and do exist already, but they're not engaged. The students don't care enough to either not download it or not use it or etc.
But the student needs to physically check in.
So we can automatically track their itineraries through these ingesting of the bookings on and off our platform. But we can incentivize them to check in by saying, okay, you can get maybe a 10% wine discount off a wine tour of Rome if you update your location.
So you said that 70% of students aren't reporting right now to those travel assistance firms, right? So the assumption then is that you would be able to acquire those users independently of those travel assistant firms and independent of the universities. So is the value that you're bringing to the universities then that you can bring new users, students that are at the university, and then how are you identifying those students and acquiring them onto your platform?
Great question. So I think there's two parts there. Yeah. So the first part, which kind of may dive into the second part there, is the university. We're able to acquire these users, and we're not necessarily competing directly with those assistance firms because they're our direct partners. They're the ones providing the services. And so in that regard, it's just kind of we can actually acquire some of the universities through our partnerships with these firms because they're already members of these firms already, and so they can say, hey, this is a new product. We're partnering with, here, do you want to try it, pilot it? And that's kind of in our customer acquisition stage.
But the value you're bringing to those firms is not necessarily the tracking, it's the 70% of students that they don't get within there. So how are you different for the students in that 70%?
Right, so the value to the firms is in those users, and so you're able to be acquiring more users will then be able to acquire more capital to the firm. We work on a per head basis, so then it's more revenue to the firm. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure. If 70% are still the students that aren't working with those firms, or
no. Sorry, the 70% aren't engaged with the current platform, so they're just not using it. Yeah.
Duty of care in corporate travel is huge.
Yes.
Do universities have that same obligation?
Great question. We'll try to answer that in 20 seconds. But the short answer is yes. There have been court cases for over the last 20 years, especially with Title IX, and over 60% of the students that go abroad are female. And unfortunately, there have been too many sexual assault cases that have resulted from students being assaulted off campus, and have actually won against the university in court. And courts are their courts are being upheld, or these cases are being upheld.
Nice work.
Great. Thank you very much.